Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I'm here with Glen Willis and Tyler Jones after a scintillating display of basketball in Washington. Uh, my first joke question is, are the Hawks better without Trae Young? But we need more serious questions. Unfortunately, it seems like I feel like the questions that I want to ask you are too much like the things that we just spoke about 2 or 3 days ago. We'll get to some of those, but let me start with this. To me, it feels a little bit like at this point, because of the way that the rest of the team is shaped, is Zachary Rijache almost like an actor who's being typecast in a role? Like he can do
Absolutely.
these other things, and they just need him to do this one thing, and so he just has to do that, and it's kind of pulling him back a little bit. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was trying to get at on Twitter and Blue Sky. And I'm glad, Kevin, you kind of succinctly made it simple, where it's like he's in a defined role where he's a pure catch and shoot player. And on offense, at least in the half court. And so, like, if
Yeah.
he's not making his shots, you know, Quinn is going to bench him for a better shooter. That's just, and I'm like, I think this kind of game exemplified the point where it's like Dyson and Dyson and Jalen were playing horrific on-ball offense. So Zach gets benched for Vít Krejci to maybe help alleviate some pressure there. That's kind of what's been happening the last couple of weeks or so with Zach. So, I mean, one, hopefully he starts knocking down some more of these threes, so that he can get a longer leash because defensively, I mean, I know that's not what we're talking about, but I feel like he's figured some stuff out here where he's really getting after it on guys. He's really getting more disruptive, getting after balls, going for steals, getting blocks. Like I, I've been pretty impressed with his defense for a while now. And I feel like it started like a after the first couple of games or so, he's really picked it up on that end of the floor. So that's good to see. But I do wish, uh, you know, I, on one hand, you wish, honestly, for him that he was on a worse team so we can see more what he can do. But because his team, like, this is a good basketball team, and they don't need to be, they're not looking to experiment with a 20-year-old to figure out what he can and can't do in the half court and what he's best at offensively in the context of a team context is catch and shoot threes. And so that's going to be his role for the foreseeable future until Trae comes back and he adds a little bit more creativity and dynamic play. Because people got to understand, um, to Quinn's like credit here, and Quinn's been great this season. He's calling a lot of plays. Like, these are designed sets, designed reads. It's very play, like he's emptying the playbook every night to get this offense humming in a way that's productive for the team to give him a chance to win every night. Because, like, we joke that Trae, without Trae, like, they miss him a lot. And it's games like this in particular where it's very simple ways Hawks could have attacked the Wizards, but they couldn't get there because, like, Dyson and Jalen were having a hard time just dribbling the ball up the floor. Like, and some of that is fatigue as well. Like, there's a lot of factors going into this game, but yeah, I'm with you on the typecast part with Zach. Like, Zach's being asked to play a role, and there are better basketball players at that role. That's why he gets benched.
Do
Yeah, I
you want?
think for me, like, yeah, think about what Zach was doing last year when Trey was playing, right? Zach is a little more dependent on Trey than probably anybody else on the floor.
Yep.
They want him to sprint transition. They want him to leak out. They want all that stuff. And Trey's a hit-ahead passer, right? He's a classic hit-ahead passer. He puts the ball on the dime all the time. When Jalen gets the rebound, they want him to dribble to the freaking front of the rim, like get to the rim by yourself. So the kind of opportunities Zach gets when he's playing with Trey are completely gone, right? Because you want Jalen to be dominant, physical, knife through a transition defense that's not set. So it's a big adjustment for Zach. It's a really, really big adjustment for Zach. And I understand why it's a bit of a struggle for him because he's not playing with dynamic passer and he's not a lot of the way Trey fed him last year down the last month and a half of the season is gone now. And that's a really big impact to what the phases of the game that the Hawks want Zach to be active in, leak out, all that stuff, right? That's just kind of gone for him. So it's gonna be, I don't know how Quinn and the coaching staff are gonna support him into finding another source of offensive contribution for him. I think they've got to find another way to kind of get him touches and playing downhill, coming off of nail level curl, whatever that stuff is. They mostly run that for KP, and they run that nail level curl for him. But for me, I think they need to find a way to give him something that gives him some rhythm, kind of gets him going because what he was getting last year from Trey is just completely gone right now.
And some of it, like Zach can help himself here with some of this. Like I want to pinpoint the Hornets game in particular, where I felt like he's just letting bad defenders off the hook too often. Where he's just letting them off the hook, where he's like, oh my dribble drive's not there. I'm going to give it up and run the offense. Where if he, because you saw towards the tail end of this Wizard game, if he reads the floor and he plays with more patience, I think there's some more opportunities for him to score in the half court, and he needs to be more attentive of those opportunities that aren't just pure catch and shoots where he's getting downhill against a bad defender. Like he needs to look for those, he needs to actively hunt those opportunities. But again, it's really hard for him to do all this when I'm saying this, when teams are not guarding Dyson at all. And it's like really hard to be like, all right, Zach, go get your offense. Oh, Dyson's man, it's where I want to drive. I got to give the ball up. And now we got to reset the offense with Dyson to figure something out. So it's tough. Like I think some of it is, I think Quinn needs to think about breaking up these rotations a little bit, get Zach with the second unit more often. Um, get him playing alongside uh, maybe Keaton Wallace and Mo Gay in particular, alongside V. Krejci, while having, getting Luke Kennard in the games early. Like, I think there's some stuff Quinn could do to maybe help Zach out here a little bit to get in an offensive rhythm. But again, like, the reality is he's on the totem pole. He's less important than Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels. So his offensive opportunities are just going to be less. The real concern I have right now is with Dyson. We've talked about it a lot. Um, I really wish he would just shoot like a mid-ranger if because they're not even guarding him when he's at the free throw line. It's like, bro, just shoot the ball. Like at some point, Quinn is just going to have to bench him if he's not going to do that, because like he's got to force these teams to respect him at least like marginally enough. Like it, because this is just, it's just too, they're working too hard to get offense when they don't have, I don't think they need to be working that hard. Like I just think, I think Dyson needs to trust the work that he's put in over the off seasons with his jumper, and like take a free throw line jump shot. They are literally not guarding him at the free throw line. So like, just if they're not going to do that, drive, fake like you're going to drive, take your time and take the free throw jumper and like force them to change their defense. That's really where I'm really more concerned with. I do think Quinn may want to stagger Dyson and Nikhil a lot more, like just almost exclusively until other than the first and the fourth quarter. That might help as well, but like I don't know, that this was pretty bad. But again, this third game in 4 nights, 3 different cities, like it could have been a fatigue thing as well.
Yeah, and people talk about spacing, and I don't mean to dismiss spacing, but it's not the only thing, because with somebody like Zach can function in the short roll, like he can do that. And that's another way for him to get some touch on the ball, to touch the ball and get a feel and get some rhythm. But he can't do that in a game like the Charlotte game because they had to use Dyson in that role, because they had to use Dyson as a screener, just to keep the defenses honest a little bit, and they, try to get Dyson a little bit of touch in the short roll, and when that happens now, Zach can't do that, which is true 90% of the time anyways. But in a situation like that, there's just no way to kind of incorporate Zach into some extra touches. So it just feels like there just aren't enough opportunities for him to get rhythm. Like, it's one thing to kind of be a play finisher and a corner shooter and somebody that's there to space, but like it's harder to do that when you touch the ball less, when you just don't feel it in your hands. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Really makes sense. And when they're, but it's different. Like I know the short roll is there, but like when they use him as a ghost or brush screener, they want him to pop to the 3-point line. That's what they have him do like 90% of the time. And sometimes the ball finds him, sometimes the ball doesn't find him. And it's just gonna be interesting to see, one way to, we talked about it last episode, one way to address Dyson being guarded with a center is to put him into the ball screen and short roll him to the nail and kind of get him going downhill in that space. But that's not what they do, is that like most of the time. Most of the time he is flashing to one of the 3-point break on one side or the other and setting up to kind of create some gravity there. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they problem solve this, because Zach is definitely in a funk, has no struggles to build rhythm. Talked about that a few minutes ago, and and for me, I mean, I have a lot of confidence in the coaches have. They have to problem solve with him on like, okay, how do we run an ATO for him, like just to give him something specific for him to kind of get him a touch and let him see that we have confidence in him to kind of make a play coming out of a time. There's some different sources of ways to kind of steer some opportunity towards him that they're not doing right now that might help him.
But
And I just wanted
like,
to add to one thing that Tyler was saying a minute ago, where it's like in that Charlotte game, like they were so far backed up, and like you're saying, he could take a free throw line jumper. To me, I'm like, take a free throw line floater. Like
yes,
that's
with
okay
Dyson,
too. If that's your
absolutely.
comfort zone shot, like you don't want to take a jumper, like just throw that, get dead center in the middle of the free throw line so that it is all lined up and take it there. Like don't take it from like the elbow of the lane, take it dead center. That's a great shot. Like that's fine. If they're not going to guard it and you get a completely, you know, untouched 15-foot floater, fine. Take that. Because that's better than letting the offense just letting the defense disrespect you.
And like Dyson, they figured something out in the Hornets game late where they did some. I thought they were doing some interesting. Him and Jalen were doing some interesting stuff, getting Plumlee out in space, and that really helped. But like you saw against the Wizards here, the Wizards literally put Chris Middleton on Dyson, and Chris Middleton had the strength to knock Dyson back when he's driving with a full head of steam towards him. And this goes to another point where it's like a lot of this could be resolved if Dyson went up with the intention of dunking the basketball instead of with the intention of shooting these floaters. Like because he's going up weakly at the rim to set up his floater, he's losing. To me, I feel like he's losing some momentum here instead of just getting downhill and attacking. But that's not, he's not that bursty type of athlete, so I get it. That goes back to the original point where he's just got to shoot the ball. Like there's no real simple solution other than shoot the basketball when you're open. If they're gonna not defend you, like take the shot. But like it goes to this lineup that they have. Like I don't think teams could not play the Hawks this way if Clint Capella was on the team, just because like I feel like Capella would be in prime offensive rebounding position, and like they would get enough offensive rebounds to where Dyson could get in a certain amount of rhythm, whereas KP is completely ineffective as an offensive rebounder. Um, and so like I don't know. It's to me, I'm like a lot of this is tough without Trey. A lot of these issues aren't issues if Trey's in the game. Just because like his gravity forces teams to play you differently, and Hawks don't have that player right now, and so like other teams are recognizing, hey, Dyson's, we don't have to defend him. I don't know. I don't envy what Quinn has to do here because to me I'm like I think he's making. I think if the object is to win games here, I do think Dyson should be playing like a lot less. Like I hate to say that because he was playing so well, but like with how teams have adjusted to how he's playing and he's not adjusting back, I do think Quinn might need to consider playing him less, playing Zach more, honestly, just because the defense has been good and good. And you have Nikhil, and you really got to get they got to get the Luke out in these into these games to get this offense going to make life a little bit easier. So there are things like if Dyson's not going to just shoot the ball because it like if he takes these floaters, every one that he misses is going to hurt the Hawks a lot. So it's just I he just got to shoot it. Like there's no sugarcoating it. Like he's got to set up with the intention to shoot the ball. He's got to be ready to shoot it, and he's got to figure it out.
I mean, Quinn's not going to cut his minutes. I think we all know that's not going to
I know, but like, man,
I know. I know what you're saying,
you
Tyler. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to throw water on my head, but like in the Charlotte game, the second half, the adjustment was put him in the corner, let him work the baseline, like got to get him out of the way, and that's I don't know, I feel great about that, like being what you. But that's what they did in the second half a lot was put him in the corner and let him work that baseline, and he had some success there. And he made some good plays there in the second half, working that baseline.
Yeah.
But to me, like teams are going to say, like, oh, if you do that, like we see that coming, and we're going to have a plan for that. For me, as I've watched, like I watched tonight, continue to watch. I want to talk about Jalen for a bit if we can. Um, he's been on a phenomenal run, like great numbers, getting to the rim, etc. But teams now know what he can and can't do. Teams have seen what he can and can't do. And it's not on Jalen to solve this himself, problem solve this himself. His coaching staff's going to help him with this. He's going to see more walls in front of him at the nail. He's going to see more second defenders coming at him, trying to force the ball out of his hands to someone else. They're going to load up on him constantly. And this is all new for him. Like, second defender's coming. What's my read? What's the pass? What's the simple play? Oh, I have to be willing to give the ball up. Well, that's not my natural instinct. My team needs me to score the basketball. My team needs me to create a great shot for someone else. And so as we watch the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 games, I'm really interested to see how Quinn and the coaching staff help problem solve and create a little bit more simplicity for him on those reads. Look at film ahead of time. This is what we expect to see this team do against you. They're going to second defender for the left side. They're going to second defender for the right side. They're going to wall you off. They're going to do this. Thankfully he's been making 3-point shots. Until tonight was a bit of an issue. But he's going to Jalen going forward. The league is not dumb. Like NBA coaches are not dumb. They know how to look at what a player can do, what he hasn't really been shown an ability to do, and they're going to attack you with multiple different looks across throughout a game. And this is all brand new for Jalen. So I'm looking to Quinn and the coaching staff to help him navigate stuff he's never had to deal with before. It's gonna be interesting to see how it goes in this next 2-3 weeks.
What was that
yeah.
first quarter against Washington? I feel
Well,
like I need to rewatch it. But
Kevin, I think
Yeah.
like KP plays drop. CJ McCollum is a good pull up 3-point shooter, and uh, so that's what was happening on defense. I honestly I don't think the defense was as bad as the points they gave up, other than the fact that KP is a liability in drop against a team with a center like Alex Sarr who's fast, just so much faster than him. And like you really see KP's slow footedness. I thought that was like a big issue all night. He was just too slow. Like he was just flat out too slow. And they were getting him up the floor. Uh, and so like that's one of those things where, Bilal was playing like uh great tweeter, Fizop, made the point that he kind of wished Quinn put KP on Bilal Koulibaly and force him to be the shooter instead of just put a like. Honestly, they could have put Ricochet on. Sorry, would have been a non-issue. You could just switch that and keep it pushing. I don't understand why they didn't adjust any of that. But again, third game in 4 nights, they might not have
I mean,
been.
is it because they are trying to get these reps before Trey comes back? Because then you're going to have to play it differently anyways.
That could
I
be
like,
it. Got
I mean,
that. There's
or
some of that.
okay, sorry.
No. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think so. Like, I think a lot of it is they want to play straight up as much as they can, because they know, Trey's on the comeback, and the defense can't be switch everything. Can't be We can't have a gimmick defense where our center's not guarding a center. Like, with Trey on the floor, you got to play more traditional defense. So yeah, I think there's some of that, but it was just tough to watch where it's like, yeah, the Wizards know that they can get to any shot they want with one screen, with Sar. Uh, and it was just like that snowball combined with offensively. I just think Jalen played with a lack of maturity. Like, I just think he lacked real maturity on the offensive side of the floor, forcing the issue more than he has all season. And it kind of, bad process on offense snowballed into bad, you know, the Wizards getting good looks in transition, making transition 3-pointers, and it kind of just snowballed from there. But I do think, like, you know, what I really didn't like about KP, though, honestly, even more than the defense, I didn't like how he played offensively. Maybe I'm the minority, in a maybe I'm seeing things, but like I felt like he was very selfish on offense. Like, it was a lot of, we're running plays for KP, we're getting him to his spots, and these are good shots that he usually makes. He missed them, but I was like, man, it's a lot of usage for KP to start this game. Like, why are they pushing the KP button, and why isn't KP, passing the ball out, flowing into better offense to get better looks? I didn't like the tunnel vision that KP played with. I thought there were opportunities for him to make some passes, to make some plays, to really, grease the wheels on offense, instead of like the entire offense was basically funneled through him for like the first 3 minutes of the game. I was like, why are we playing like this? I don't understand that. So that
Yeah,
was
I
that
think
was
that mitigated, that eased up a little bit like as the game wore on. But yeah, the at the very outset of the game, it felt that way. I think I feel that. Like, how big of a problem is it that when he's playing somebody faster like that, like he can't turn his hips and get back to the rim?
Huge, huge problem. Yeah, and that's why you
Like
can't
it,
switch him
like
on the.
like
That's why you can't
what
switch him on the floor.
percentile amongst like how where does it fit like in terms of the rest of the centers across the league? Like, is he like I like there's like maybe a certain level where it's like, well, that's not going to be very good if you ever have to do that. And then it's just like maybe there's like two steps below that. Like I'm trying to like give it some scale. It's hard for me to rate, but I don't, well, how do you
Yeah.
feel about it?
I mean, like, I don't know, 25th percentile, somewhere in that range. I mean,
Okay.
the thing for me is he has a ton of length, like a ton of length, right? And let's lean into that, for what you have to do. He doesn't use enough as a defensive rebounder, we know that, right? And needs to work a little harder in that phase of the game. But for me, you know, when he's on the floor, you're not going to switch anything beyond 1 through 4, at the most. That's just not something that you're going to do. We talked about last episode, like against certain creators like Harden, you got whoever the center is has to get all the way to the level and stop the ball handler, make the ball handler, ideally make the ball handler retreat with the ball, that sort of thing. But I mean, the Wizards played with a ton of pace tonight. They dictated pace in this game tonight. When that happens, you're not setting KP up for success. Now we could talk about whether let's get him off the floor until we can kind of regain control of the pace. That sort of, what do we do about that? Um, but I mean, the Hawks are. I think the Hawks are tired. The schedule's been grueling for a while now. But I don't think you always want to just kind of always just fall back on that being why you didn't play well
Yeah.
enough either. I mean, it was a factor tonight. I don't want to take that away from the reality of what they've so much travel. They haven't really been in the same place for one time at all and forever, and that sort of stuff. But I mean, the Wizards have lost 14 games in a row, and they absolutely dictated pace from start to finish. This entire game, they dictated pace the whole game. Um, so I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like a couple of group chats. I'm like, so like somebody like, dude, just go for a walk, man. They lost a bad schedule spot or whatever. Yeah, do they win this game because teams lost 14 games in a row? We can all have an argument about like, yeah, this is a game that you should win. But the NBA schedule is freaking grind. Man, it's an
Right.
absolute, grind.
Right.
But I know even like the Hawks don't want to use that as an excuse, but they look tired. They look really, really tired to me. But yeah, like when the other team is like, dictating pace, like maybe you get KP off for 3 minutes and get Mo and Onyeka playing together, or whoever, Jalen and Onyeka, whatever it is, they kind of
Right.
deal with that up and down. I feel like that's not setting him up for success when the other team is really just dictating pace to the level that the Wizards were tonight.
I just think it was a bad matchup, and I really wish Quinn didn't. I mean, I kind of just wish Quinn would adjust it. This reminds me of how Capella looked against Sar last year when he had Onyeka and he didn't, match those two up. Like when Onyeka was on Sar, Sar couldn't do anything. It's just like, but there is a smaller, I mean,
I
there's a
I
bigger
mean, no,
issue.
you bring up a good point though, because like Vukovic, like that would have been a great matchup for Porzingis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But there's a bigger issue. It's like Onyeka's just been better. And I don't I think Quinn needs to make a decision. Uh because if you're not going to like to me, if you're going to start Porzingis, you have to have him at the rim at all times on defense, or it's just not going to work, right? If you're going to do that, you either like this game in particular, Jalen has to, this is where if you could trust Jalen to do more defensively, maybe we'd be in a different space with what we're doing with KP. But because you can't trust Jalen to do anything other than grab a defensive rebound, and like play, natural basketball. You can't ask him to do much more than that. Um, you're kind of limited. But I'm like, at what point do you just push the I'm just going to start Onyeka button to me? Because Onyeka has been absolutely nails on both ends of the floor for the majority of the season. And like the Jalen KP unit, it, it just it it feels like you're not getting the best of KP or Jalen with those two on the floor together to me. Like I don't I think weirdly enough, I do think and some of that is that KP wants to do his work at the free throw line, but that's where Jalen does his best work in the half court. Is at the free throw line, at the nail, and operating there. And Jalen's just a more dynamic ball handler uh, than KP. But that's why and KP's a better like I don't know. I think Quinn needs to really consider breaking those two up more often because we're 19 games into the season and like those two just have not like to me they've been pretty bad together. Like I just defensively that they're like they enable their worst habits, weirdly enough. And then offensively, like I do think some of the issue on offense is that Jalen wants to be at the free throw line isolating against a smaller defender. And KP also wants to be at the free throw line isolating against a smaller defender. And it's like, okay, well, Jalen's the better player, but KP's the vet, and that's where my concern was. Like, we're starting the game. Jalen's been averaging like 25, 10, 7, all this stuff, but we're going to start the game with like 5 straight possessions with KP shooting. Like, what are we doing? Like, whose team is this? That's where it's like Quinn got to be an adult.
And Kristaps
Quinn,
isn't starting every game either, so it's not like you've got this incredible rhythm because it's like well, you do it one way this game and you do it one way this game, and it's constantly flopping back and forth.
yeah, and that's why I'm like, oh, hold up, whose team is this? Right? This is a smaller Wizards team. They don't play with a real power forward. KP is a good 3-point shooter, but even though he's been struggling from 3-point line this year, at least he's not making his catch and shoots at the rate that he used to. You expect him to be. I just I didn't like how they started this game, and it's from there where it's like their bad offensive process leads to bad beat, and it led to bad defense. I do think some of that is like Nikhil Dyson probably exhausted. They've been playing a lot of minutes, and they've been playing a very high intensity defensive style. Those two, So it's tough on them. But that's where, I kind of wish Quinn would trust Zach a little bit more on that side on defense a little bit, and give those guys a little bit of break, stagger them a little bit more, give them a little less runway here. But yeah, again, I'm going back to the start with this KP Jalen thing. Like it's something about it is not working. Maybe it's better with Trey on the floor, but there are times when they do need KP against the bigger teams. Like it's just reality. Like the bigger teams, they need KP size and length. Like they really missed them against the Pistons. In particular, it felt like to me. So like that's just something, Quinn's just gotta, monitor throughout the season. But like it like I feel like it should work better than what it has, like those two together.
Yeah, and it's probably hindsight, but against New Orleans, they put Porzingis on PV, and like you were saying, or like you were saying, somebody else tweeted like this might have been
Bilal,
a
like,
game for him to be on Koulibaly. Like
yeah.
that might need to be something that you're much more hyper aware of, and I'd be interested to know, like, can they have Kristaps play like three stints a half? Like, can he come in for 4 minutes and then play six and then play another six at the end of the half or something instead of two? Like, if that's possible, because I just think there are going to be matchups like this where he's better suited. Like you can, if you do that, you can split Jalen and Porzingis up a little bit and avoid the problems that you were saying about them both wanting to be in the same spots on offense too much.
I mean, I don't know. It goes like there's a lot of factors you have to consider with Chris Stapps. That's just the reality of the player that he is, but he's so
Yes.
good
Yeah,
that
exactly.
it's worth the effort. But like
Hmm.
this is the reality of having Chris Stapps Porzingis on your team. With the Celtics, it was really easy because Jason Tatum was an elite defensive player who could guard centers. The Hawks do not trust Jalen Johnson to do that. So they can't do it. And because they can't do that, you're going to have games like tonight where Chris Stapps is a massive liability. And I'm like, okay, it's on Quinn. Either you're going to adjust what we're doing defensively or you're going to bench somebody. You got to bench somebody because what you were doing was never going to work. Like they were never going to come back into this game having Sar play Chris Stapps in traditional drop defense. Like that's just the Wizards were going to score 1.8 billion points per possession. So like I just think I do think these 19 games have been a good like litmus test of what this Hawks team needs to be looking for going forward from their players. But I just think Quinn's gonna have to keep adjusting. Like that's just the nature of the NBA. Like he's gonna have to keep adjusting. Hopefully Trey comes back. I think Trey in general is gonna make things a lot easier. Where it's like, all right, I'm running the show here. Um, you guys are doing this and that, and like this is what we're doing for the next 3 minutes. And so maybe that'll get them a little bit more settled on the offensive end. Um, but the offense, like I mean, this game aside, like they've been playing good offense. So it's going to be an interesting adjustment all around with how this team has been playing. Like they're going to have to adjust big time. Hopefully, Trey can really like to me. My biggest hope when Trey comes back is that Jalen maintains his form because he's playing at an All NBA level. You don't want him to take anything off the table. Trey's able to do a bit more off ball, but he's also able to find Dyson and Zach more often in the half court to get them going. Where it's like Jalen's the full court player, Trey's more of the half court guy, and setting the tone from there.
Is there anything else about this game that bothered you, Glenn? What else? There were a lot of things that went wrong. Are there any things that went wrong that we didn't discuss yet? How about that
I'm just like,
challenge?
yeah. Honestly, I'm just like, flush it. They're tired. I know listeners might get frustrated with that being kind of the excuse or whatever. And again, Hawks players aren't going to take that as an excuse, but for the grueling schedule, CJ's an absolute bona fide professional scorer. He absolutely is. And so just move on. Like, just, this team's been playing good basketball overall. I mean, for me, I look back at the last three games. It's like, did you need Chris Stapps versus the Pelicans? With Plumlee
Yeah,
with Plumlee on the Hornets, would that have been a
I
better
think
game to play Kristaps? Because that matchup totally works for Kristaps. Did we pick the wrong games to play KP here? I'm not in charge of that decision, so but I feel like they could have maybe kind of taken different games to kind of choose to leverage him for and have a better situation for him. But what do I know?
Yeah, and you know, not necessarily that this is exactly this point, but like there's a human factor, and I think Quinn is a player's coach and that he likes to instill a certain amount of continuity for his players, and his players
Sure.
appreciate that. And he's not jerking guys around here and there. So like
Yeah.
they're getting their data points and they're getting their feel and they're going to learn about this team. And it's crazy how much things are going to change when Trey comes back for better or for worse, but it's just going to be a completely different style and there might be a whole different set of problems.
Yeah.
I'm still going back to the preseason. I'm still very worried about what it's going to look like with Trey and Jalen and Chris Stapps together. So, I mean,
same.
these
Yeah.
problems are going to change.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Onward. Onward. That's what I say.
All right. I appreciate you doing this and happy Thanksgiving. And good night, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Good night,
Good
Bob.
night, Bob.